Alright. Hello. I am live. So this is Pix Carts. It's been a few months, because I was very busy with Yanok, which, might as well show for it right now. Wait. Yeah, just released Yanok on Steam. Go check that out if you like this type of game. It's like a top-down shooter, bullet hell, roguelike thing. So yeah, go ahead and check that out if you want to support my work. Did I put a link in the description? I have no idea. But you can search it by name on Steam. And yep. So there's that. It comes with the source code in the game files if you want to look at that too. But today I am working on Pix Carts. So it is an online multiplayer racing game. I've done some playtests like several months ago. Did I do it in like March? It's a long time ago. But and I know I did some playtests last year. I don't know if I did any playtests this year. I don't remember. I think I did. I'm not sure. I would like to do another playtest this month. I'll be cutting it close on timing. If I do, it'll probably be like between Christmas and New Year's, maybe. Because I have like 2.5 weeks off. But I've still got work until my last day of work is the 19th. And then from the 19th until January 6th, yeah, my last day off is on January 5th, so I've got a fair bit of time there to work on things like Pixkartz. I'll also be working on my VR thing as well, but I think for the next playtest in Pixkartz, I think I was just planning to have one more track added. I'll drive through this one real quick. This is one of the more recent ones. We've not played this one I don't think we played this one in a playtest. I think the last one that was new in a playtest was Sandy Oasis. But yeah. So here's one of the maps. I did make this map on stream a while ago. It's a small map, but it's got ice on it. And yeah, so this is pretty much the map. Let's go ahead and... Actually, if I do one more lap, I can force it to switch to one of the other maps. It'll end the race. Unfortunately, I'm using, like... I think this is the slowest car in the game. It has good handling and good acceleration, but aside from that, it's not too good. Very slow. The mini turbo from drifting is also pretty weak. There we go. Across finish line, so it'll end it in like 10 seconds there. You're watching my Pygame tutorial, so I think the 6-hour platform tutorial is necessary to learn Pygame. No, I'm possibly this year I might have a video where it's like Pygame in 10 minutes. If you are coming from a place of experience, you can pick it up in like a couple minutes, or you can learn the basics in a few minutes. But people with less experience, you may need to spend more time learning. My original tutorial series mostly goes through the functionality, so there's that. That's shorter. I think it's like probably more like 2 hours in total, at least for the core of it. Whereas the 6-hour one it actually has a project in it, and I go through and explain a lot more stuff for like how you would approach certain problems. And if you already know how to solve those types of problems, then there's no point in there's little advantage in using the 6-hour tutorial over like the old ones. Is it going to be playtesting right now? No. I need to finish this Portal Void map, and then that will be when I do the next playtest. these are not in order. Yeah, Sunny Circuit's the most recent one. Yep. And then Portal Void's the one I'm working on. How's Yannick doing? Well, it's released, so you can go and play it. How did I learn pixel art? Mostly actually from Twitter. I see pixel art on Twitter and then I draw things. It's that simple. Anyways, so once I get to the art on this track, it'll be it won't take nearly as long as the other tracks I had to do the art for. So the interesting thing about this track is that it's got multiple layers. So like the idea is that you're hitting portals and then the portals teleport you. Now the awkward part is that layers were not originally supported, so I'm having to add that functionality now, and I believe I was partway through doing that when I got to when I had to like stop and work on Yannick for a bit. So this looks like a toe. So the blue the train I'm driving on is just the actual train data that the game uses to determine like how the car should interact with the train. So there's basically no artwork right now, and that will be added later. But it does make it easier for me to see what I'm doing, and I can see that this kind of looks like a toe. But anyways, this blue thing will teleport me to the other layer. Yeah. I believe there are some issues. Yep, that's the issue that I needed to fix in this stream. And to do that, I believe I have to add layers to checkpoints. Oh, controller mapping stuff. I'm gonna switch to controller mapping in Pixkartz at some point to work the way Yannick does, which should work a lot better. There's a lot of old stuff in here, because, I mean, how old is Pixkartz at this point? Did I start it last year or the year before? Wait, no, I remember I started working on it, I think, during my linear algebra class. Well, I think it started before that, and then I remember working on it during my linear algebra. Yeah, okay. So the linear algebra class was summer of last year, I think. And then, so I started before that. I think it was like April of 2023. So actually, I mean, it's almost 2 years old. Ever thought of procedural animation? That's what the centipedes in Yannick use. Going through my old tutorial series, is it worth you doing it, or should you use the latest one? It's whichever you prefer. They're different styles. The information is should, I think, be accurate in both of them. I don't think there's much that's actually changed since I did the original one, but I would probably be better presenting it in the 6-hour one. But I'm also intentionally not being as concise. I'm not focusing on the features as much as of Pygame as I am going through the process of game development in the 6-hour one. Can I do a tutorial on procedural animation? Procedural animation is... There's no one way to do it, so a tutorial doesn't really make too much sense. I could do like an example on procedural animation, but it's not like a one thing fits all type of solution. It's the multiplayer stuff is mine. This is the old version of my multiplayer framework, and it has issues. It's a bit awkward to work with, but it does get the job done. And I used a lot of the playtest, like this information I got from the playtests with this one to improve on it for the next iteration of the multiplayer framework, but this one's still running the old one. It take a lot of work to migrate it, which I probably won't do on this game because the code's workable. It's just kind of annoying. Anyways, so I believe the thing I had to do was the level editor. So there's editor.py. Do I already have layers in here? How does this work? Let's just boot it up and see what happens. I think it takes a while to load. Why does it do that? Oh, it's because it's loading like all the map stuff. So presumably, I think I can only see like part of the map here. I'm not sure how I got all these checkpoints down. This big square is a barn. But I think what I did to get these checkpoints down is probably just I swapped the images manually because there's no layers. Do I have... So shift, my checkpoint ID doesn't change if I hold shift. But if I hold control, nothing happens. So I guess shift is being used for something. Is probably, what is it being used for? I'm curious. Shift. Oh, checkpoint width. What? What does the width do? Huh? Where is this used? 20. Okay, it looks like it's just not used. So it was probably an old feature that I got rid of. I think I use a different system for checkpoints now. So yeah, the way the racing game works though is that as you drive, it progresses through the checkpoints. But right now the checkpoints have no idea which layer you're on. So like once you drive up to here, actually no, based on the checkpoint numbers, it looks like you go this way. So presumably there's a track here, and once you drive from left to right, it'll like teleport you to this area where you can see the track here. And I'm only seeing one of the images. There's another one that's kind of hidden there. But what I need to do is have a way to see which layer everything is on. And for that, I think gotta throw in a layer thing here. Let's just do layer equals 0. I think I probably organized this some way or another. Data, it's gonna be images maps, I think. And then if I go to portal void, how did I do this? Floor -1. So I think the idea is that you start on layer 0. And then it goes to layer 1 or -1. You know, I could have just as well have done 1. Maybe? I'm curious if there's a reason why I did that. Anyways, so we have layer 0. That's the default. I need to load multiple floor images. So it needs to be that if there's multiple like these, it pulls out more than one of them. And how am I doing this? Well, okay. Dev OS. OS. No, I don't have OS. Import OS. That's what we need. Okay. And then we'll do for F in os.list dir, and then we know that our map data is going to be here, and then I think so we want to do if floor in F, then well for now let's just print it out. I think this is just the file name and it doesn't include the path. No, I don't want that. I don't want that. Okay, there's the editor. So we have, what is it loading? Because it only loads one image. Oh, never mind. I know what it's doing. It's, no, maybe not. Because I thought maybe it would be generating the sprite stacks, but then now I don't know what it's doing. It's doing something, probably. Oh, it's probably, since it's importing the assets, I bet you it is loading all the sprite stacks. That's something I'll have to optimize at some point. All I have to do to improve that is to just only load the stuff for the area that I'm in, and that'll go so much faster. Because right now I have, is it 7 or 8 tracks? And yeah, so it'll try to load all the resources for every single track at once, and that doesn't go too fast. So if the floor is in the file name, I have these down here. Actually, I'll zoom in so you guys can see a bit better. If the floor is in the file name, take that, and then suffix equals f.split -1.split .0, and then layer equals 0 if len suffix layer equals int suffix. Oh wait, for layer, we don't want to clash with our other layer variable there. Now, so now we know the layer there, and then we can do map bg layers equals that, and then map bg layers floor layer equals, and then we can go ahead and load this right here. So we'll call this base path equals that, and we'll do f base path slash, and then we want f, and that will give us our background. Now we need to convert this background here. It seems to be based on whatever layer we're on. So that, and then we index based on the layer. So that's the only draw call of that. So now I can just modify the layer. I think I'll do control. So if event.key is pygame.kl control, we will do control equals true, and then we also want a false case to turn it off. Now if I go over, I need to add control here, and we need to find the scroll wheel logic. That's going to be here, and then so elif control layer list equals sorted list map bg layers. So that'll be lowest to highest of all the layers that we have loaded. And then we want to do layer list dot index of layer plus is this up or down? This is up. We want layer to equal that, but then we want to modulo this so that it loops around. So I'm just creating like the looping logic based on whichever layers are loaded. So I can use any set of layers I want, and it'll go through them in order, in loop. So that's for this one. And then for the other one, elif control, we do this, and we go minus. Both of these should have the same outcome since I only have 2 layers here, but if I had more, it would work a bit differently. Anyway, so that should, I think, did I do that wrong? Dot split underscore -1. How does it get floor? I am confused. F suffix. What had happened here? Oh. What did I do? I did if len. What's the suffix then? Oh, because there's not any to begin with. Ah. Yeah, that makes sense. So little hack. I think that'll do it. Wait, no. Wait, what happened there? Did that give me an empty list? That's funny. If len suffix is more than 1, then suffix equals that. Else suffix equals actually I can just like do this. That'll be equivalent. All right, so we have that. I don't actually have anything printing out which layer we're on right now, but in theory, nope. I'm trying to scroll, nothing happened. So that didn't quite work. Let's see why. So I think presumably layer is not changing is the problem. I can also just print map BG layers. And then the other thing I should do is actually show what layer I'm on. There should be a thing that's rendering a bunch of text here. That's what I need to change. Yep, here. So this needs to go down to there, and we'll say layer and layer, and we'll do that. Yeah, it's not changing. So I have 0, -1 there. So the question is, what happened here? And why is the layer not changing? I'll read chat real quick. Do I use TCP for the network layer? Yes, but the system I use could have UDP swapped in, sort of. What I will probably do at some point is like I'll have TCP as the default, but then for some things you might want to be using UDP. So for like the way it works is you have like shared objects and then there's different fields in there. And what I'll probably do is I'll have an option where for a specific field you can set like a field in an object to be UDP instead of TCP, and what that'll mean is that like functionally what'll happen is the packets will be delivered more reliably on a time scale, but you'll lose them or they'll be corrupted pretty often. So you just kind of have to account for that, and then what'll happen is the way you would end up using it is that you'll use the UDP feature when like you're dealing with something where you don't care if something gets temporarily corrupted or if a packet gets lost and you don't get that information. I feel like most things you do want it to be that you don't lose the data. Like for example, let's say you grab an item or something like that, and you don't want that action to be lost because then no one else knows that you grabbed that item. Now, but what can be lost is if it's very common to regularly send position updates. So like if you're running around, you want to blast out position updates, and you're just constantly sending them out so the other players can know where you are. And you don't really care if those get lost because they're going to have another one soon that's going to be even more up to date. That's a good example of when you would want to use the UDP feature if I add something like that. And that's something I'll probably do eventually. And actually for well, both Pix Carts and for the VR thing I'm working on, that will be a useful thing to have for movement. Although for Pix Carts, might be a little bit more work to do that because it is a different version of the networking framework. Have I beaten Yannick on Apocalypse difficulty? No, I have not even beaten it on Invasion yet. I was going to try to beat it on Invasion on the stream. The last one, I started up like a new save, and I had, what was it? Oh yeah, I got to the winter area and then died, but I didn't have very good enchantments yet, so as I get more enchantments from playing more, I'll have better odds. But, well, and also what happens is when you're working on your enchantments on a run, you're spending less on upgrades, so it's not the ideal for how well you could perform. So it's like normally when you're playing through Yannick, you either choose between going for an enchantments in a run or just trying to get as far as you can and only buying upgrades and no enchantments. And that I haven't done that yet, so I've just been focusing on enchantments so far. So I'll probably stream Yannick again maybe next weekend or something. And I was actually playing it a bit in bed last night, and got a bunch more enchants, but I'll probably see how far I can get. I've not really tried on Apocalypse. In theory, it's possible, but I would need some really good enchants. And I'd probably need to luck out a bit on the upgrades. Either that or just get better at dodging stuff, but that can be a bit challenging. Now I have beaten Yannick on the normal difficulty though. You started watching my content recently. Do I have a video of writing physics for a round object from scratch? If you're talking about a circle, that's easy. Provided that you're not dealing with torque. So if you're not dealing with how collisions affect the torque or the angular velocity of an object, it's pretty easy. Although actually, I think with a circle, it wouldn't be too hard to get the angular velocity either. But yeah, circles are really easy. They can be a bit more difficult with if you're mixing them with squares, but I mean, so the basis of doing physics is just knowing whether or not things are colliding to begin with, and then after that you have to figure out how to resolve the collision. And the technique I used was to move on one axis at a time, so you always know how to resolve a collision. And you can apply that to circles. And the most challenging part probably for you would be the collision between a circle and a square. And that one, there's a couple ways you could approach it, but you can probably look up a basic algorithm online for that. Circles and circles are really easy because you literally just check the distance. I'm trying to think. Can you... So there's a formula in geometry to find the projection of a point onto a line segment. And one technique that I can think just off the top of my head, which is probably not the most optimized but would work, is to project a point onto the edge of whatever you're testing to collide with, and that'll give you the closest point of the square to your circle. and then you just check the distance on that to see if it's inside the radius of the circle. And then once you have that collision, you can just apply the same logic that I have in my normal physics stuff where you're dealing with squares. Can I estimate how much did it take to get to this level in game development? It depends how much what time or years or like. I mean, I've been programming since 2013. I've been coding for over 11 years and doing game development with Pygame for over 11 years. Well, I actually started with Pygame, I think, in October of 2013, and I started with Python in September of 2013. What color scheme am I using? I think this is the default, is it not? I thought it was the default. I do find all the blue a little bit annoying. I might change that someday, but I've also just kind of gotten used to it. It's a lot of code. Ionic is like 15,000 lines. This is not that much code. Make another collab video? With who? Is there a way to view the source code, or is it private? For Yanok or for this game? For this game, I posted the source on Patreon a while ago. It's going to be a bit outdated. I could probably do another update there eventually. Yanok, the source code is included on Steam, and actually because of Steam's, because of an agreement you have to make with Steam, I would risk getting all my stuff removed from Steam if I shared the game on Patreon, because they have a clause where you're not allowed to sell a game for cheaper anywhere else than you have it on Steam, which is kind of anti-competitive. It prevents you, and I think actually if you took them to court on this, but I don't have the money to do that. If you took them to court on this, they would probably have to admit that is not legal to force on developers, but that's something that they do. And well, one thing that people have tried doing, which you're not allowed to do, is to charge based on how much the developer gets. So like if you're selling on, like you do like your base price on some place like itch.io, where there's the option for you to get literally 100% of the payment, and then you increase your price on Steam substantially because Valve takes a huge cut out of every sale. That's the thing that they're trying to prevent, and that's effectively what would happen. Well, that's effectively what I'm doing if I put it on Patreon, because my lowest Patreon tier is $3. If I increase it to $5, I could actually post it on Patreon, but I'm not allowed to at $3. Is the source code for the network in the public now? Not yet. So the version that would go public is the one that I'm using for the non-Pixkartz projects. The one in Pixkartz is the old version, and that one will probably never be public. I think I did put that on my Patreon, and you can at least get it on my Patreon through through when I posted Pixkartz there. So you can mess around with it that way. It's not super user-friendly. The newer version is more user-friendly, but it doesn't have any documentation yet. And what it'll be is that I'll probably post that after I've got a functional game that's using the updated version. So Pixkartz won't count towards that. I'll have to have another multiplayer game before I can post that, because I want to make sure it's kind of thoroughly tested before I get other people into using it. And then I also have to write documentation. And for example, with Pixkartz, it's a good thing I waited, because I decided to go and rewrite the whole thing because it was awkward to work with. How can you read the code again and understand what this means the next day? I mean, when you've been working with one language for 11 years if you have like a job in programming, for example, a lot of the time you're not actually programming. Um, so actually, it's I think my experience is pretty much equivalent when it comes to Python, pretty much equivalent to working with it for like a decade as like a job. So when you've been doing something that long, you can look at it and get a pretty good idea of what's going on pretty fast. That just comes with experience. Yeah, this is made with Pygame. Am I chat GPT? What? What weapon do I main in Yanok? So in Yanok, since you can technically main like one of the three base weapons that you can start with, but those are like statistically the stats that they have are objectively worse than some of the weapons you can buy in the shop later on. So if you want to be good at Yanok, you have to be comfortable with multiple weapons, because you're not going to get the weapon you want in every single run, because it's random which weapons appear in the shop, and there's like 22 weapons, I think, right now. Is that it? There might be 22, I'm not sure. But yeah, so you're probably not gonna get the weapon you want. And if you are waiting for a specific weapon, you might also just get it really late in your run. So you have to be comfortable with multiple things. My preferences, though, I do like the neutralizer, and then there's a new weapon, the Meyer, which I've started getting into a bit more. I think that's what I mainly have enchanted, are the neutralizer and the Meyer. And then I also have the Beamer. I think I have pretty highly enchanted. I think that's probably one of the strongest weapons in the game right now. One that's also pretty good is Winter's Breath, but I haven't been using it too much lately. I think most people that do well in the game end up using that as their secondary, because it was a little bit too strong, and then I actually nerfed it in the last update. But I only nerfed it a little bit, so it's still pretty strong. You started video up for a little bit. How am I? I'm doing fine. I'm excited because, well, I'm working on another video this weekend, which I'm hoping to have out like today or tomorrow, probably tomorrow. And once that's done, I'll be kind of caught up on all the things I was behind on because I was working on Yanok so much. So I'll be able to slow down a bit. So excited for that. But yeah, I think it's been chaos for the last couple of months. But yeah, I really needed to get a video out because I haven't done like a proper video in a while. It's funny, people say that YouTube doesn't punish you for not posting videos super regularly, but I can see that it does. And I mentioned this on another live stream, was that when I live stream, I get increased viewership on my other videos that exceeds the viewership of the live stream. And the only way to explain that is that YouTube's doing something there that's driving more traffic to my other videos, presumably because I streamed. I'm not sure how that connects. And the things that I've heard about how the algorithm works doesn't make any sense with that. So I'm not sure why it works like that. It may be that people just see my video in my live stream in their suggestions, and then they click that channel and then go watch a video. That's a possibility. I'm not sure what's going on there. Another possibility is that people go from watching the streams to my other videos, and then when they go and do that, it gets amplified in my other videos get amplified in the algorithm a bit more. So there's, I guess, a couple things that could be happening, I guess, but who knows. The way the algorithm works, though, is it's trying to find videos for people, not people for videos, I think. So that doesn't quite make sense. I'm not sure. I really don't know why it works like that, or like why it behaves like that. So, but yeah. And then, like, for example, I think this whole year the pattern's been pretty much, I think every 48 hours I get 5,000 views, kind of as a base. But then if I put out a video in the last month, normally I'll have like 10,000 views is what it'll sit out at for 48 hours. And like only a few thousand of that extra 5 is actually coming from the new video. The rest of it's going to my other videos, and it could very well be that people are just watching multiple videos. But it's weird stuff that happens there. And YouTube is part of my income, so it is somewhat important that I keep it going. What is it? I get like, on good months, I think there's a month this year where I got like $600 in ad revenue, and then that doesn't even include like Patreon and stuff. So Patreon, my Patreon for YouTube is like 120. And then I have another Patreon account, so it like adds up to like $200 for Patreon. That's for something else. But yeah, I was bringing in like, I think in my good month. And then I think I also took a sponsorship that month too. So I think I brought in like $2,000 in a month from YouTube pretty much, which is no small amount. Goes straight into my savings. Yeah, but I am working on a normal job as well, so mixing both is very profitable. Is there another programming language I would like to learn? So programming languages, at this point, I can just kind of pick up as I need them. I don't really need to sit down and learn it. I can just open up the thing and kind of force my way through it. Especially if I'm modifying an existing project. So like if I am like doing something for work and someone's already written some code, I can just look at it and kind of figure it out. A lot of the languages kind of have the same core functionality, or the a lot of the languages people actually use for making things, so not Haskell. But they have a lot of similar features, and you can just kind of figure it out by looking at it once you have enough experience and you know kind of what's normal for a programming language to support. So like I kind of like picked up Kotlin just looking at it, and Java I had to use on and off for school, and I just kind of figured it out as I went. It's not too difficult. So I at this point, learning specific programming languages is not really a concern. Why am I still using Python 3.11.7? Hey, that's pretty new. You have no idea how long I was using Python 3.3 for. I was using 3.3, which I think it released in like 2013, and I was using that until like, I don't know, 2018. I just don't bother updating too much. There's not too much of a reason to. I think 3.11 has the performance improvements in it. And I don't really use like new features that much, so I'm not too concerned about it. How to do movement/camera for Yanok. If you normalize movement vector, movement diagonal mix is sprite jitter. I mean, well, so if you have pixel art, it's going to jitter regardless. If it's like perfectly grid aligned, there are some hacks you can do with your camera to reduce it. And the thing I did for Yanok was I added an option where people could hard lock the camera to the player so that there wasn't that jitter. But if you've got slack in it, yeah, you're going to get some jitter. Although it could just be like, it ends up being kind of how the numbers line up based on your movement speed, your frame rate, and some other stuff, for going diagonal versus like in the cardinal directions. So that's not something you can too directly influence without adding very specific pixel level logic to your camera. And I didn't go too far with that. The easy one, like I said, is to just hard lock it, and I just added that as an option. I don't care too much about jitter. It doesn't bother me personally, especially when you're moving fast. Although I do have the movement vector normalized essentially, so yeah, a diagonal is going to be the same speed, not twice as fast as moving right or down, for example. You just found my live stream and you became curious about other content I make. I'm surprised that's the case because I think I've looked at the analytics on these and it's overwhelmingly my subscribers that are watching these. So I don't know what happened there. You curious about how I implemented the multiplayer part? Yeah, I have a video on that if you want to look. It's actually not too complicated. The base concept's super simple, and the implementation also is pretty simple as well, but it makes things pretty easy to work with. Do I have a Pygame tutorial? I have two Pygame tutorials. If you look, there's a 6-hour one, and there's the series. Was it hard for me to find a job having done mostly Pygame? Well, so professionally right now I do a lot of C++. So and the first job I got was actually JavaScript. But then I rewrote all their JavaScript in Python because it wasn't being used for web development. Well, I mean, it was a little bit, it was like internal tooling, but like most of it was actual logical operations rather than serving web pages and stuff. So I rewrote a lot of that in, I rewrote all of it in Python. But yeah, so I got hired for that. I didn't know JavaScript. I think they're using some other stuff that I had never used, but I think they just looked at my resume, and I didn't even have an interview. It was for an internship though. I didn't even get an interview, and they brought me on. And I guess they just thought my resume was good enough, and so at the time, the CEO of the company, it's a small company, so the CEO was making those decisions, but the CEO, I think, was looking more for just soft skills, and I think he's just looking for someone that knew how to code in general and understood that would transfer. And so they weren't too concerned about me not knowing the specific stuff they were using. I got asked one question before being hired, and my answer was, I'm not sure what you're talking about, but I'm pretty sure I can figure it out, and that was good enough for them apparently. And I worked for them for a while, and then I had to leave to go to college, but then after I graduated, I actually came back. Since it's a small company, they're pretty flexible as well, which is how I can work like 32 hours a week and still get benefits right now. So it ended up being a pretty good deal for me. But I got that job also through a connection. So I just happened to know one of the only other people that had worked there on software, because it's mostly a hardware company as well. Yeah, so I knew the right person, got the CEO's email, and then, yep. So that's not normally how things work, I don't feel like, but that's how it worked out for me. And now I have experience in a bunch of stuff that makes it pretty easy to find work. The most competitive space to be in is probably like web development. There's so many people that know JavaScript and know how to do web development right now. It's just kind of the go-to for a lot of people. But there are a lot of jobs in like C++. They're not super flashy, and actually generally C++ jobs don't pay as well, because like the big tech companies don't have as many. The big tech companies lean more towards web, but there's a lot of stuff in the world that runs on C++, that isn't big tech, and so you can get those jobs fairly easily if you have the right skills. And so that's the area I'm in. So I'm in the space industry, but yeah. And then, well, I use a mix of Python and C++ for that, but Python itself you can get jobs with, although the thing with Python is that I feel like usually you're using Python and something else and not just Python in most jobs. And actually I think a lot of the times Python ends up being the secondary language. So it's really good to know for jobs, although just knowing Python may not be, you might have some difficulties finding stuff. But like, yeah, for me though, C++ and Python is what I mainly use, is a very good mix. You just wanted to ask, what programming stuff do I use on my job? Well, I just answered that. I can't go too in depth. There are some regulations on what I can share, so I can't go into like technical details about how the stuff I work on works. I also just don't want to say what I work on because there's not very many people that work on it. So, and I don't think my name's like publicly out there as being one of the people that works on it, but still try to be cautious with that stuff. Because there's not that many people working on rockets. And then I work on something specific in that industry. Any plans to update Pygame tutorial? Like I mentioned before, I'll probably do so I have the series, which is kind of going through all the features, but taking my time kind of like introducing it as if you're like medium skill level. The 6-hour one's more beginner friendly and teaches you a lot about how to approach the problems that you would run into in game development. And then I want to do like a really short one that's like only a few minutes long that just goes through all the features for anyone that's more experienced and wants to pick up Pygame, and those people can probably pick it up very fast. Any plans for game jams? I am hoping to do a bunch more of those next year. I kind of paused it this year because I had too much going on, but I'll be doing more of those next year. I'll probably start with the Alka Jam. I know there's one in February, and then I might do another Ludum Dare after that. I did see that the last winner of the Ludum Dare was a Pygame user, and then I also found out that he's been in my Discord server for 4 years. Yeah. How do I manage in game jams? You ended up trying one, and the stuff you produced was garbage, and you hated the time you spent on it. I don't think I've had that experience. I don't know if maybe that's just the mindset you went into it with, because I mean my first game jam game wasn't very good. It didn't do very well. Wasn't very fun, but I had a good time making it. And I just got better over time. And I mean I've always enjoyed game jams, so I mean maybe it's just not for some people, but for me I really like them. Am I a VTuber? Technically, I think yes. Wait, does my eye? I think because I'm looking over at the chat, one of my eyes kind of goes flat. Might need to fix that at some point. It's more of a tracking issue. But technically, yes. But if you say this guy's a VTuber to some random person, they're gonna assume that it's like anime VTuber, which is very different. And there's a whole culture there that I am very much not a part of. So I do it because, and I've never shown my face, so it just always made sense to use an avatar. And like, I had a very primitive VTuber thingy in 2015, I think. It was, so the idea was that I would manually control it while streaming rather than it actually tracking my face, and that's what I did for a bit. I think I found a picture of it somewhere. I think I sent it to someone. I could probably dig it up. But I don't think I have any of the streams anymore because it's Twitch, so Twitch just deletes all your old streams after a while, so it's not there anymore. But I like back in 2015, I was streaming on Twitch a bit. Was it doing that? I might have been doing that before I even really did stuff. Yeah, that's like 2015. I think it's 2015. That was before I was doing stuff on YouTube, I think. I didn't really start doing stuff on YouTube until... Well, I was doing stuff on YouTube for a while, but I didn't really do the game development stuff until, I think, 2017. I haven't tried Vim. I use Vim for work. It's useful when... I don't use it primarily. I use VS Code primarily and something else that I won't talk about when I'm doing C++. But I'll use Vim if I'm like remoting into some machine over SSH and I need to edit some code. I find it convenient then, but outside of that, I don't use it much like when I'm not at work. I've used it a few times, like when I'm doing some stuff with my servers, like with Pixkartz. I'll SSH into the server. Maybe I'll need to make a quick change to some file, and I'll like use Vim for that. But I mean, I don't like actively use Vim that much, and I don't know all the keybinds. I can work my way around, but I don't know all the fancy tricks. Can you get a coding job without a college degree? Because, well, I did. That's what I got my, well, no, I had an associate's degree, but I didn't have like a 4-year degree or a computer science degree. It is much more difficult. And I think even once you have the experience, there are some companies that will not take you for not having a degree. And actually, since the industry's getting more competitive right now, I don't think this is the right thing to do, but what a lot of the companies are doing, I think, is they need something to filter all their applications by. So I think a lot of them will just straight up throw out anyone that doesn't have a degree. But it is possible to get a job without a degree. And if you're in a situation where you would have to go into a lot of debt or something like that to get a degree from college and you already know how to program, it could very well be the right thing to do to just not pursue a degree. But you will probably... Your market value overall is going to be less because there are less companies willing to hire you. So the companies that are willing to hire you will probably be lowballing you a bit, even though it doesn't make sense for your skills. Yeah. But even getting lowballed a bit, the field still pays very well. So as long as you can find work, you'll probably be fine. And another thing you could do is work for a while, make some money, and then go to college so that you're not in debt. And actually, what will happen in a lot of companies is they'll pay for you to go through college. And actually, some of the companies, if you get into a bigger company that is actually more picky about degrees, but if you somehow get in, like I know a common thing is that if you get a bachelor's degree and you go to like a bigger company, a lot of times they'll pay for you to get your master's degree. And they might do something similar for, I haven't actually heard about this that much, but I also don't really know that many people that are in this industry without a degree, but there may be some companies where they'll pay for you to get your bachelor's so that they can promote you. I have heard about like other industries where people will go in without a degree, and then but the HR will say, "Oh, you can't be promoted anymore, even though we want you to be in this position because you don't have a degree. But because of that, we'll go and pay for your degree." I've heard about that in other industries as well, so that's something that might happen. You'd have to look more into that. But yeah. Interesting story. You're a senior in computer science trying to work on your portfolio when you graduate, or for when you graduate. Wanted to learn Pygame because of my videos. Reddit may not be in demand. Pygame itself is not going to be in demand. You're not going to find a Pygame job. Now, I've used Pygame in every job I've worked. But that's like, I'll use it for some tooling, because sometimes you need just like a graphical program, and Pygame can be a convenient way to do that, especially if all of your code's already in Python. Usually, most of them you'll use something like Tkinter, but then sometimes you might be working on something where you need like visually something to happen that you can't just do in like the UI constructions of Tkinter or Qt. So, and that's where I pulled out Pygame a few times, and it's been very useful the times I've used it. But it is harder for other people to maintain, so it's more of like kind of a last resort, a last resort option if you need to make some kind of tool that typical like UI frameworks don't support. And regardless, if you're in that type of situation to begin with, you're probably going to have to use some sort of tool that, or some framework or module or whatever that your coworkers are not familiar with. Because very few people have experience in graphics programming outside of like just UI constructions of like web interfaces or typical applications where you've got like boxes and tables and what is it? Just buttons and stuff like that. Is my game open source? Everything I released has the source with it except for Pixkartz, and I'll have to hold it back on the multiplayer games a bit, just because it's not a good idea with something that's multiplayer to just give people the source code. But I do have the source code available on Patreon though, and what it'll be is that code will be kept outdated, so that it won't really be compatible with the modern versions of the game. But I'll probably keep like posting old versions there as I go. But yeah, everything else though I have source code available for. Actually, it might be the Super Potato Bro. I can't remember if it's Super Potato Bro or Drawn Down Abyss. One of those two games doesn't have it included on Steam, and one does. But if you get it on itch.io, you get the source code. Yanok has it the source code included on Steam though. How to make a window which is my face transparent. This is just this is not an actual window. It's just shown on top with OBS. Here's what I see, and it's got a green screen, and then OBS takes the green screen and does that. What about making a lot of money? Is that still possible? I mean, there's always ways to make money in this industry, even without a degree. It'll just be harder. It's not impossible, it'll just be harder. You've been learning Unity for a while. What should you do if you can't get any projects done? And should you... I'm not sure what the word shoot there is for. I'm assuming take lower shoot lower? Should you shoot lower, I guess, and take classes? I'm not. I'm a bit skeptical of like taking classes for like game engines and stuff. I don't know much about that space. Normally the free resources are pretty good. So if you're talking about taking classes for Unity, that's what I'm saying, is that the free resources are pretty good. But if you're talking about taking classes in like other computer science topics to find jobs in software outside of game development, that could be a decent option. But I mean, yeah, if you can't get projects done, you're probably just over scoping. You just want to make small stuff. Game jams are a good way to make small stuff. You know, someone who's very successful in their corporate career, but despite it, and they want to take 2 years off just to learn to code from scratch and switch to game development. I mean, if you're already successful and you have the money, that's a fun thing to do. I know a guy, Tim Baudet. I did kind of like an interview with him. I interviewed him in one of the videos on my channel. What he did was did he start in game development? I think he started in game development, and then worked for some game development companies, and then I think you'd have to watch the video, but I think he didn't like kind of like the work culture and the pay and stuff like that, and switched to doing just normal software. And this is kind of an example where someone doesn't have the right degree, but he went and got a good job in software. So he had a game development degree and got a normal job in software. I think that's what happened, and took his savings from that, and then now I think he's kind of living off of his investment returns partially, and then doing game development because he's already made his money. Although he's he makes a fair bit of income from game development as well, though, so he's mixing it. He's doing what I'm doing right now, except instead of living off of the investments of having worked in software before, I'm actually just actively working in software. What do I think about Pyglet? I haven't really used it. I know when I looked at it, it had not been updated in a long time. No one was really maintaining it. I think people went back and it's being maintained again now or something. I'm not sure. But it's just a different... it's just different. So Pyglet, it's built on OpenGL. So if you're dealing with like high resolutions, and you need to depend on your GPU for rendering big images. Like, for example, let's say you're making a game where you want 4K resolution textures for a parallax background in like a 2D side scroller, and it's not like pixel art, you're drawing like regular art. For something like that, you'd have much better performance with Pyglet. But I think when you're dealing with Pixart and the type of stuff I do, it's a lot easier to work with Pygame, and on some things performance is going to be better on Pygame. I think just very simple draw colors, like setting the color of one pixel or something like that, is probably going to be faster with Pygame. And then the bigger stuff, because it's running more on your GPU, is going to be faster with Pyglet. So yeah, for pixel art, Pygame is the right choice for me. And for like my 3D stuff, I don't know if Pyglet might be able to do 3D. I haven't looked at it much since like 2013. But I know it's OpenGL based. I don't know if it actually supports like in the rendering pipeline if they give you access to stuff so you could do 3D. But that could potentially be another use case, but I use Modern GL instead, which is pretty nice. So for me, between Modern GL and Pygame, I'll have all my use cases covered. You're not really sure of all the various applications of Python, probably many, but developing REST APIs with Python's Flask module is probably still quite in demand. Yeah, I've seen that on, like, if I just look for jobs, I see that mentioned a lot. I still don't really know what a REST API is. It's an API presumably that's, I guess, my impression is that it's just kind of like an easy way to set up an API with Python. You just the thing I'm a little bit confused about is that Flask itself is already really easy, so I'm not sure what the difference is. There might be like a technical thing that REST APIs do. I don't know. But I haven't looked into that. I haven't had a need to do that. I'm not really in the web space, so and well, I think REST APIs are used outside of web a bit too, but I'm not really in that space. I'm a lot closer to hardware. That's where my experience is professionally. So that's not really something I have to look into. You bought Yannick yesterday. Good stuff. Thank you. Return Balatro? You didn't like that? I haven't played it, but people speak very positively about it. Balatro is apparently made in Lua, and I think Love2D. Which is funny because Love2D is actually Love2D is basically Pyglet, but for Lua. You said the last Ludum Dare winner was a Python developer. Where did I find this information? If you just pull up the last Ludum Dare, go to the results, go to the winner, and it says on the game's page, it says Pygame. Ultra seems better for mobile. I think I've seen it. It exists on mobile, doesn't it? How did I get started with hardware? I just mentioned this earlier, but I just got put into the job based on my soft skills. So not because I had experience with hardware, but because they, I guess, looked at my resume and determined that I had good problem-solving skills and could pick up skills quickly. What helps, though, is that I've won a bunch of programming competitions in real life. So I have those on my resume, which helps a lot. And then, of course, I have all the stuff I do here. So I feel like after a certain point, the technologies don't matter too much. There's knowledge that comes with the technologies that can be very useful. But because I was applying for like kind of more entry-level positions with, I guess, soft skills coming from many more years of experience, it makes sense that you could shove me into pretty much anything and I'd be able to do well for that entry-level role. Now, the knowledge is more helpful in the more senior positions and stuff. So like if you've been working with hardware for like 10 years, you'll know a lot of random quirks about different things you're using that you can't just pick up immediately. And that's where people in the senior positions are better. In a way that you can't just immediately, I guess, adapt your soft skills to. This technology doesn't matter apply to low-code tools? I've never really looked into the low-code stuff. I don't know much about it. I've never really encountered that in my jobs, I don't think. The link isn't working? Are you talking about from my tutorial? I'm pretty sure the one from... I just fixed the one in my tutorial. I can check. Let's see. Yeah, I just pulled up the one from my tutorial. It works fine. I don't know if you're talking about that one or if you're talking... Because that one's based on a game called Lollipop Ninja that I made a long time ago. I'm not sure if Lollipop Ninja is what you're talking about. But I don't see why Lollipop Ninja wouldn't be working either. Because it's hosted on itch.io. You can it would be the fault of itch.io if it's not working, not me. So I'm not sure what you're talking about. Anyways, do I have plans for mobile Pygame? Not really. Although I might have to essentially deal with it because the Quest 3, like the VR headset, is technically Android. And if I want to put VR games on that, then I basically have to go through the same process that people making like normal mobile games with Python would have to go through. I think I would have to do something similar. Sort of yes, but not like a phone mobile. Does showing my portfolio help with getting a job without a degree? I think you would have to have a portfolio if you're getting a job without a degree, because that's if someone doesn't have a degree and they don't have a portfolio and they don't have previous work experience, how do you know? Why would you hire them? I think the portfolio is the thing you have to rely on. People say they prefer a portfolio more than a degree. I think if you ask an engineer which is more important, they'll say the portfolio is. But because one of the most important things is to just not get filtered out immediately before a human even reads your resume. And so because of that, a degree may be more impactful than a portfolio. So nowadays, though, things are super competitive, so that's actually less true now. It's a little bit weird. So ideally, it's a lot more important to have both nowadays than it used to be. But in the past, I've heard that you could literally just graduate, not even have a portfolio, and easily get a job. And that's still somewhat the case true today, but a lot less so, I think. So there's a lot of people that are really struggling to find work after college. So for those people, a portfolio matters a lot, but then, and they're going to have a harder time than they used to, but then also you could have a really good portfolio and then the AI thing will automatically filter you out before a human looks at it because you don't have a degree. And they have 1,000 applications and they're able to get someone who has both a degree and a portfolio. So why would they bother looking through all the people that just have a portfolio? Yeah. Now, you may have better, like I said, I think on an engineer level, if you ask like the engineers that are working for a company and are kind of like some of the final people approving whether or not you get hired, they will say the portfolio is more impactful for their decision. It's just getting to that point. So what may help is to go for smaller companies where you're more likely to get a human to actually read your resume. That will help a lot, I think. And that's essentially what I had to do because I was in a weird situation. I think I was getting filtered out in when I was trying to get an internship. I was looking for an internship between when I got my associate's degree and when I was going to go for my bachelor's degree. And because I was switching schools, because I graduated from a community college and I was going to go to like a normal 4-year university, but because I was in between schools, I wasn't affiliated with any school at that time, and I wasn't in the middle of any degree. So I was looking for an internship without being in school because it was in my gap year between two colleges. And I think that filtered me out in a lot of things because most of the time when they're looking for interns, they're looking for people that are actually in school, and normally it's like your summer off or something, but I was taking like a whole year off between like schools. And I did not have any luck at all with bigger companies, even with having won a bunch of programming competitions and stuff. But once I actually got a human to read my resume, things went a lot better. Anyways, so I was just reading chat for how long was that? Probably an hour. anyways, let's get back to adding layers here. So I have my 2 layers. I can see my layer number there. I think, yeah, so the problem was that this code was not being reached. Let's just print this. So I'm wondering if the control thing's not working. That's a possibility. Oh, no, that's not it. So, well, we can test this out here. So I'll just, this is the interesting way to check things. So we have this list. We know I'm on layer 0. So we can do L equals this. This is my layer list, and I do L.index 0, and then I do +1. Then I did a modulo of the length of the layer list. Oh, that's L here. That should be. Oh, I did a dumb mistake. Okay, so I took the actual. The result of this is an index, not an actual layer value. What I need to do is layer list and then that. That's what I had to do. And now, hopefully it should work. Okay. Let's see. There we go. There's the toe. So now I can see my different layers. So the next thing is to make it so that I can add layers to the checkpoints, and that's important so that like when you fall off the map, I can select the checkpoint that's on your layer. That's kind of important. Or actually, no, what it'll be is that it'll probably take you to the previous checkpoint regardless, so it normally selects it, but then just put you on the correct layer. Because what was happening before was that I was crossing layers, but I hadn't hit the next checkpoint yet. So it was teleporting me into the void on the layer that I was currently on, because so my last checkpoint was on a different layer. So I need the layers to know or the checkpoints to know which layers they're on, so that when it teleports to that previous checkpoint, it can move me to the correct layer. So that's what I got to do. But so the checkpoints need to have layers. And then the other thing that's going to go with that is that these, like if I place like these tiles like that, those need to have a layer too. And what'll be, I think these are all like JSON files. So like this is the data for that iceberg or the snowy map that I showed you guys at the beginning of the stream. This is all JSON. Well, it's kind of, I have a weird thing. That's just my hack to say, this is a tuple. When I load this file, I want this to be a tuple, not this string, because you can't, tuples don't exist in JSON, and you can't use a list as, or an array as a key. In Python, you can use a tuple as a key, but since tuples don't exist in JSON, you can't do that. So this is just my hack so that I can have tuple keys in the files. It's not super efficient in terms of space or like store file size, but it works fine when functionally, and there's not that much data to begin with. This is, all the maps are probably just like maybe a couple megabytes. But yeah, so like for example, here's a barrel. So type barrel position, and what I'll do is add like a layer field. And what it'll be is that if the layer field doesn't exist, it'll assume that the layer is 0. So that's what I'll do. But I need to do the checkpoints, which I believe are here. So I have this. I think I could literally just add a third value and say, yeah, that's my checkpoint. Why is... It's a list with a list, and what is the extra value for? There's probably a reason for that. Let's see. Checkpoint. So that's removing them. Where's the adding them part? Here's where it loads them. So there's checkpoint ID equals checkpoints, checkpoint ID, blah, blah. Fun. I'm just gonna like print this. I'm curious how this is loaded. So yeah, so it does have that nested thing still. For checkpoint in. So I guess there's multiple checkpoints under the same ID. Maybe I did that so that I could have split paths. That was probably the idea. Is that I could have multiple checkpoints under the same ID and it would split the path and you could take the same route multiple ways. That's probably what it was. But it looks like it would only work for one checkpoint because it just grabs the first one of the next checkpoint. Anyways, so what it'll need to be is that, let's go ahead and actually, I'm gonna have to modify the loading logic here. So when I load it, that equals that. I think, for checkpoint in this, if len checkpoint is less than 3, checkpoint the append 0. So that'll be the layer it's on. So it'll be XY layer. It's essentially XYZ, if you want to think of it like that. But instead of the layers are not in pixels, that's not the unit, so it's just slightly different. But if I do that, I'm curious, does this just immediately break everything? We will see. Nope. So that still worked. And then so if I print this out now, in theory, I should get my 0. Yep, I got my 0 in there. So that's the layer now. So that will fill in the layer for me. If it doesn't have one, it'll add one. And then now I just need to make it so that when I place one, it adds it to the data. I have another print in here I need to remove. Where is it? Ah, here it is. And then I need to find the code where it's placing them. Aha. So we want that plus layer. And now we could filter it so that the checkpoints will show differently depending on which layer they're on. Where am I rendering them? I saw the for loop earlier. Oh, here they are. I think what I'll do, if checkpoint 2 does not equal layer, so if it's on a different layer, then we'll say if it is the same layer as what we have selected, we do it that normally, and then otherwise we want to use a different color. We can just say like 150, 150, 150. And so now if I run it, in theory, if I switch layers, they should all turn gray. And then now I would just have to place new ones. So, yep, so they're gray here. I could like add layer information. I'll just add that in parentheses at the end. Well, let's just do an F string here. CID, and then checkpoint 2. Let's go ahead and remove that. And so now it'll say in parentheses which layer it's on so that I can find it easier. Here we go. So yeah, this is 0, turns gray. I think the gray could be a little bit darker, maybe. Actually, let's make it a little bit red. We'll do a dark red. Like a gray, dark red, kinda. So they turn white when I am on them. Okay, so the next thing would be to rebuild all these checkpoints. Just get rid of that. I'll check up on chat for a moment here. You want a simple game with its code for your college project? No. If you read my website, I specifically say that I won't help with. Well, I won't do your school work for you. If you want to make a game, you could follow my tutorials and then make something of your own. I see you're asking if anyone's successful in coding without a degree in the comments there. Most of the people watching this stream probably have not. Actually, it's probably most people in high school, maybe? I'm not sure if that's the case. Actually, maybe that's not true. I know my Discord is mostly people in high school, but my YouTube analytics say that my average viewer is older than me. I would assume that my live streams are in between. So, but it's maybe people leaning, like the average is probably more towards people that are graduating right now. How do I deal with such bad JSON structure? What? Oh, I don't edit it. I don't edit the JSON by hand. It's all generated by code. So yeah, I don't use that format for anything I'm editing by hand. This is something I edit by hand. I gotta change this token now. I don't think the token... Yeah. What is it? I think the token is just what I have to use to tell my thing that lists all the servers that this is a server that people can connect to. That's all it does. It's not like a password or anything really. You're making card game networking. Wait, you're making a card game is networking hard. For card games, it should be pretty easy. You could almost actually you might be able to for a card game actually just get away with doing it as if it were like you could do HTTP or HTTPS like web requests, like post and get. And yeah, you could get away with that because it's not real time really. I mean, it's real time as much as like websites are. So you don't even have to get into sockets and stuff if you're making like a card game. So card games are probably some of the easiest games to do networking for. I mean, there's probably a lot of logic that you have to code networking wise, but it's not difficult, like particularly for being networking related. How did I go about learning and figuring out how someone else's code works? I do not have a ton of experience reading other people's code. It varies. Like, people can do code things all sorts of different ways, but I mean, if you know the language, you can just kind of look at it and figure it out. Look at how variables are connecting. Just look at the way I do it is I just generally just look at the overall flow of the data with respect to whatever I'm trying to deal with. So where certain values are going. Do I think YouTube Analytics is lying? Well, it's not YouTube that's lying. It's the people who have accounts with incorrect ages, where they put an age that's older than they actually are. That is definitely a thing that happens. I don't think so. My average viewer is still probably close to my age. I think when you account for the fact that my analytics say that it's a fair bit older than me, it makes sense to assume it's around my age. That seems to be the case. But the funny thing is that when you get the really young audiences, you specifically get a lot of viewers that are like 40, 50 years old because they're using their parents' accounts. And that's something I don't see. But a lot of other people in game development on YouTube see in the analytics, which suggests that I at least do not have the super young audience. So my audience is actually a fair bit older on average than most game development YouTubers. Like for me, a lot of the viewers are in the 20s to 30s range is I think my two main demographics according to my analytics. The third biggest I think is the under 20, but I think that's where I'm missing a fair bit, and those are probably shoved into the 20 from people lying about their age. That's my guess as to what's going on, but I don't think it's super substantial. I think the numbers in the 30s suggests that there's a little bit of an older demographic there. And I mean, I can tell from my comments, like just, what was it? My video about how I manage my time and stuff. In the comments, if you look, there's a bunch of people talking about having kids, like as in they have kids and they're trying to manage their time. So there's definitely that demographic in my audience. But yeah, it's not super clear how big it is. But it makes sense though, because my channel leans more technical than most game development stuff. Anyways, so let's go ahead and figure this stuff out. So the way to do this, I think, is to actually just delete all the checkpoints and start over. So where is the starting point is the question. So I think, yeah, you start over here and then you go up. So you start here, 2.0, you goes this way, and then you switch over to this layer, you go around here, and you can go this way, or you can go this way. I think the checkpoints work on that. Yeah, I think they work. I guess we'll find out if this works with the checkpoints, but so you can go this way, follow this, and then I think the way it works is that it casts out essentially a line perpendicular to the checkpoint. So like you hit this one, you turn over this way, this checkpoint casts out a line over to here, so you'll cross it when you get to here. And then like this one goes out to here and you cross it right here. and it'll only go to the next checkpoint. It won't skip them. So like it's not gonna trigger these ones. I think that's how it works. So like then you go down here, it triggers this one. This one's at a little bit of an angle. That might be a bit of a problem because when you count for that angle, it's backwards. I think because of the way the math works, I think it'll see that it's behind you because it knows the side. So it knows like it'll cast the line this way, but then it knows that on the right side here, this is the backward side and this is the forward side. So it'll know, even though you're already past it and you're not crossing it, that you're on this side, I think, and it'll give you it. And then like this one goes straight up to here, so you would have already passed that one. This one already passed because you're like around here. And then like this one you still gotta pass, I think. And then yeah, it meets up and you get back on the track. So what'll happen, I think, as a result is that the placements of players will be a bit funky when you're on this split part here, but I think it should work fine. Now the rockets though, that's where things will get weird, and I'm not gonna mess with that too much. I think I'll leave that as is. So actually if you go here, you might see some weird rocket behavior. I think I'll intentionally leave this side open so that rockets that are, the way they work is they go to the closest checkpoint to your checkpoint, and then they'll fly directly to you. So it'll, like if you split off here and a rocket comes behind you, it'll go down to, let's say, here, and it'll say, oh, you last hit checkpoint 19, and so I must be close, so I'll fly directly to that player now. So I'm at checkpoint 19, player's all the way over here for some reason, so it just makes a hard right turn and then comes all the way over here and hits you from across this gap, so it won't actually come from behind you, it'll come from the side. Anyways, so that will be a thing. That would take a bit more work to correct. I would actually have to have the working split routes there. And that's what the arrays are for there. That's why there's multiple possible values. Anyways, so yeah, it goes around here. You go up a layer and go around this way. And I think this comes up to the starting point. Get some hops, then I think this is it pretty much right here. Yep. Okay, so I believe there's a way to clear all the checkpoints. Checkpoint width. There's gotta be a button in here. Is there not? I can just hack it and delete it myself. I can press Z a bunch of times, that might do it, but it's a bit finicky, I think. So yeah, I'll just go ahead and actually delete it. So the starting point, I need to keep track of this because this is actually important, is a fair bit for the turn. It's kind of in the middle here. It's not super important where I put this. You can start anywhere in that stretch really. Anyways, so let's go to data. Actually, I'll do it from here. If I go portal void here, just grab this and literally empty it. And then I can place the track. So there's that. I think this is the turn here. Yeah, this is it. So this is where I gotta place a checkpoint. So like right here or something. Ah, wonderful. That's not correct. That is, was it WM put? I forgot what the actual thing that was supposed to be there. WM pose. I don't know how I didn't put that back in there. That was an accident. Anyways. So I'm in checkpoint mode right now. Where's the, am I in the wrong spot? Where am I? I think I gotta go to the right here. So here it is. Nope. Aha. Fun. So we do this little hack here. Actually, the better way to do this is just watch this. That. The good old splat operator. Alright. So gotta find the track here. I think it's right now. Okay, now I just place these, and I just have to be mindful of the this. I think, did I put the check? I think I put the checkpoint right before because you don't want to spawn on it. It's like right here. But then you want to change the layer. And so you'll go to like right here. So that's the layer cross right there. But then you go up like this way. Doesn't have to be perfectly straight. You get some weird results in the player placements in real time as a result, but the only one that really matters for whether it's straight is the one at the finish line, because that's what changes the results of the race. That's a little bit close. So I have to leave some space before the jump here so that you can gain some momentum before hitting it. That's always important. I have way more checkpoints than the other time I did this. I think it's this one. There you go. So that's perfectly straight. So you want these two lines to be perfectly straight so that the line for checkpoint 0 is perfectly perpendicular with the track. That's important. But yeah, so you can see the layers here. So that's nice. Got my 2 layers. And then, so the next part is to actually implement this in the game. So we can go ahead and save that. I think it outputs it to here, right? So I don't actually need this, that's empty. That's just the blocks. I need this. So we have our checkpoints here. Some of them are -1, some of them are 0. So that's for the 2 layers. And then we just have to make it so that that's taken into account, or that when the player is being respawned from falling off the track, that they go to their last checkpoint. So now the question is, where's that logic? I think that's in the car. I don't know if it's in the car, or I think the server actually might do that. Who does that? I think the server does it, yeah. The server checks if the player is out of bounds and teleports them. There's some client-side stuff, but the actual movement, I think, is on the server. So probably here. No. Here. Where is this? Server? Did I just hard-code it in? I might have hard-coded it in here. Player items? Nope. I need the player cars. There's an update. Car.update. No, car.rank.update. Ooh. Oh no, this is just for the positions. So here's this. I'll do that. Where does it? Aha. Here's the logic for it going off the track. If it's on the void, then you do all this teleportation stuff. So I need to be able to set the layer though. What is car? That is the question. Collection car. So this is going to be, no, that's a chicken. S car. It might just be over here somewhere. Is this car? I don't think set position is what I'm looking for. Is this car? I don't think this is what the server uses though. It's not. Well, we can do class car. Oh, is this the... We'll do this. Presets, is this it? Oh, this is probably a car. Yeah. All right, well, I have to use the restroom real quick. I'll be right back. I'm back. Hello. close to 100k subs. What do I plan on doing when I hit that number? Nothing in particular. I mean, I'm gonna be excited, but I don't have like any special thing planned. I don't think people do that as much nowadays. I think that was more like an older YouTube thing to do that. Like, because I feel like most people don't really care that much. And I mean, I could do some random thing with 100,000 objects or something like that. I don't know. Like virtually. Who knows? But I have other stuff to be doing. My approach to YouTube has always been that YouTube is a byproduct of what other stuff that I'm already doing. So, well, that, and I also make tutorials based on stuff I already know. So I generally don't make things that are just for YouTube. Like, I think if I go and look through my videos right now, let's see. Yeah, if I look through my videos here, let's try to spot a video that wasn't just made for, was just made for YouTube and not, well, actually, so I do make some videos where I talk about something where I'm just kind of talking about it for YouTube based on some experience that I have, and it's not about a project that I'm already doing. So those are kind of leaning more towards just being for YouTube. But like these 4 videos, these 5 videos right here are very much projects that I was already doing. This is a Yanok devlog in disguise, so I tricked people into watching that one. This is literally a compilation of things I was already doing. This is a compilation of things I was already doing, but 2023. This is Pix Carts, which I'm already working on anyways. This is me making a tutorial. That's kind of the one thing I'll do where it's not something I would normally work on if it weren't for YouTube. Yeah, I was already doing this anyways. These are Game Jam games, tutorial, compilation. This I made for fun. Okay, so I did the globe thing for YouTube. That's probably the farthest I've ever gone for YouTube specifically, was to make that globe. But the music I made already anyways. I guess this is an exception. So this is where I interviewed Tim Bodett. And this one was for YouTube, and it's not a tutorial, not something I do otherwise. So that's kind of an example, I guess. But I didn't make any code for that. Yeah, I don't have a single thing I've coded here that was purely for YouTube, which is not really something I do. So it would be a bit weird for me to make something specific for 100,000. I don't know. It seems it's a perfect game to start with networking. Yeah, card games are pretty easy for that. You're 90 years old? Nice. 27 soon started cutting 2 years ago. You assume mostly it's young audience and some older people for sure. There are a surprising amount of people that are they're in software and then they get into Pygame just for example, if they have a job in Python, I think a fairly decent portion of my viewers are people that are already using Python for work, but they want to do game development, but they are regularly using Python, so Pygame just makes sense there, and so they'll do that. Is that a toe or a fingernail? The track? That's just the terrain. Have I considered using Bezier curves for tracks so they're consistent length? The tracks are hand drawn, or a lot of the, or sort of. It's more like hand stamped, but the artwork is not procedurally generated. So that wouldn't really work for this. The tracks are like flat images here. So if I look at Frosty Iceberg here, this is the track. Like it's just literally a big image. If you somehow get over to this portion of the track, you'll see some weird stuff. But this is all water, so the black bit can replace with water. But like, yeah, so this is all like hand placed. I stamp it. I don't actually draw every pixel, but I stamp it, and it's not dynamic. Like it's not dynamically generated. It's hand stamped, so it's not using actual curves either. But so generating this would be a pain, especially because like different tracks are different. So like if I look at Ghoul Pit, for example, this one has like these sections where it's like kind of blocky, but then has this type of section where it's not, and doing that mix would be a fair bit of work to set up dynamically. And then also if you do it dynamically, you can end up with some either repeating or unpleasant patterns appearing on the edges. So, but combing through it by hand, I can kind of clean some stuff up if it looks a little bit strange. You can do Control P and then type the actual search methods in VSC. Well, with Python, you can literally just search def and then your function, and you'll find it too. Is Python my hobby language? Do I have, or have I used other languages in engineering career? Yeah, I do C++ and Python for my job. Some days I'll just use C++, and some days I use just Python. Sometimes it'll be both. But yeah, Python is my preferred language though. Anyways, so we need to find where, I think this car object's instantiated by, why does it know that it's a node 2D thingy? Well, so node 2D block moving, so the question is this in the blocks moving node 2D? Dev class. Where's this being used? So presumably this is what the car is inheriting from, but I'm trying to figure out where it's being used. Because, so this is getting a reference from here, but then where is this thing being used? I think it's literally just defined here. And I might be ripping it out from something else. But I think if I go to the blocks thing, this is part of why I reworked some of this. So if I go to blocks here, I think if I look at the car, didn't I put the layer in here? I thought I put the layer in. Oh, here it is. So I can just set the layer. But the server needs to know the checkpoints layer. So what I need to do is go over to here, and I think I have the checkpoint info. Oh boy. I hope none of this math is... Let's go ahead and see if this still works as is, because I would not be surprised if I broke it by adding that extra value. We shall find out. So I need two... The game won't start unless there's multiple people in the lobby, so I gotta do this. Do that. And then we need to start another client. It's running so far. We will find out if it dies. So I would not be surprised if it just immediately crashes the server. That's not what I wanted. I wanted it over here. No. Go in. The server's running. Let's see what happens if I start crossing checkpoints, and let's see if they actually work. So I notice I entered my first lap. That's good. It looks like it's working. And so it handles the car placements. And now let's try that works. And so now I think, fortunately, it looks like I just indexed things by 0 and 1, which means that it didn't throw in that extra value added into checkpoints. So now, because like this is what I did here, is I set the position like that instead of just setting it like, if I, for example, had done, I could have before written something like that, and that would have worked before until I added the extra value, and then it would have completely broken things. So let's do car.layer.update, and I think all I have to do, how is this? What is this? Start CID, end CID. Oh, it's trying to figure out the angle to, is it that? Yes, it's a position and then the angle. I think that means though that my new position is, well, my position is going to be, where's that code? Here. So it's giving me this, which I think is the thing that has that extra value in it. So I should be able to just do new position 2, in theory. Yeah. So I think that'll work. Maybe we shall find out. Okay. If this works, then I successfully set up the checkpoints to deal with multiple layers today, although I spent a lot of time just doing chat stuff, so it's a bit distracting. Let's do that, mute that one, and then we need another one. I can make it big. And so the test here is to see if I go backwards after crossing the, well, first let's do this, make sure it doesn't crash me. I need to like fix the rotation. Uh-oh, that's not good. Did it change my layer too? It changed my layer. So I think I have to update the checkpoint. So I guess you can skip to checkpoints that are not actually the next checkpoint. That seems to be what happened there. Because like, for example, well, where it actually was on, I was right here, but on the layer below. And I guess it decided, hey, you're closer to these other checkpoints. So it's not actually looking for the next one, I guess, which is what I thought it was set up to do. Which means that the solution is, I can filter it so that it won't select a checkpoint as your nearest checkpoint if it's not on your cars layer. So that logic is also handled by the server. So we kill that. So I'm looking for where it sets the player's checkpoints. So that gives me a checkpoint based on my position. Interesting. Aha. So that's what's going on here. Distances. So it tries to find the closest one and then like does some progress stuff. Okay. So I think what I need to do is set the distance like super high, so like this but with an 8 on the end. If it's not on the same layer. So what I can do is when I take this position in here, I might be able to, since I just did 0 and 1 everywhere. Ooh, nice. I could just tack it on the end. Or I could actually just explicitly pass the layer. I think I'll pass the layer directly. So we'll just say layer like that. And then when I calc these, we will do layer equals layer. And we'll also say layer equals 0 here. And so when it does this, new distance equals that. But we will also want to do if checkpoint 0, 2 does not equal layer. Well, no, say if it is equal to layer, then we do this math. Otherwise, we'll do that. So it'll force it to grab stuff from the same layer as your local checkpoint. But it'll be based on the position of the car, so you'll switch layers at some point. That will have some weird side effects. Because that means, though, that as soon as you switch layers, it'll force you onto the next checkpoint, which you will be behind. I'm not sure if that's going to cause some problems. So I think for checkpoints, for respawns, I think the way it should work is based on whichever one you were previously at, not whichever one's behind where you fell off the track. That would probably make more sense. That would be something I'd have to change later, though. But anyways, for now, though, we'll probably do this technique. I'll probably have to rework some of the checkpoint stuff at some point. So, yeah, I use the calc progress thing here. We need to have layer equals layer, layer equals 0, and I think this one is not referenced inside here. This is used over here, but it's used here. Didn't I just literally search for... Oh, progress stat is different than check progress. Oh, calc progress. Okay, so layer equals layer, Oops. And then layer equals 0. Now, this is the one that I used over here. And then for this, I can do car.layer.value, I believe. So you pass in what layer we're currently on. And now if I run this, and maybe it'll work. All right, so let's select that track there. And let's see if this works. I think it crashed. Fun. Where's the crash? There it is. So what happened here? Int 72 in checkpoints. Oh, that's not how that works. You gotta pass in these two. It's not meant to be just a straight integer like that. Testing this takes a moment just to get things going, especially when I need like 2 things loaded. I could like do some stuff to make it faster to iterate on, but I actually normally don't have to change that much of the, like as much logic as I'm changing right now on like the server. It's not a whole lot of that to do. Normally I'm like just adding tracks, which is more so artwork and level editing. What library should I use for the server side of in Pygame CE? Just Python sockets. It's included in Python. So in theory, actually, let's do this. First test, right here, I went off the side before and it changed my layer. So now it puts me back here, which is good. So the other thing I gotta check for is if I go over here and I go off, put that there, and if I cross, but then go around. Oh, cool. Put me back here. So I guess it is saving the previous one, presumably. That seems to be what's happening. So if I go off here, though, it knows to put me on this layer still. So I'm curious, though. So there's this part right here, which is the fork that we saw before. The track forks here, and the checkpoints are on the other side. So if I drive off right here, I guess that's true. So that's a minor issue. This, I might have to switch this so that this part of the track goes more in the other direction. What it needs to be is, I guess I can only really show it on this. I think you can see my cursor. Yeah, it's a bit small, but so what I need is for the closest checkpoint from this section right here to be the checkpoint that's over here, which means that the problem is that this strip right here where it loops over here, this is all on the same layer. But if I pull this back to like here and add the layer transition right here instead of right here, then if you go off the edge right here, the closest checkpoint's going to be actually probably like one of these right here, or that one. That actually might pull you ahead. That's weird, but maybe. The ideal solution would be to add these split routes to the checkpoint system. That would be better. But that's a fair bit of work. I think temporarily what I'll do is I'll just correct the track so that it just works out with the current system. which is to move the layer transition all the way to the left of the map here. And then, what else? Yeah, so I'll have to fix the issue where you could like drive off the edge here, and it'll probably... Now, I think what'll happen is it will come over to the straight down to there, so you don't get really an advantage for doing that. It'll be a bit weird. It puts you ahead a little bit, but when you lose your acceleration, it's not really worth it. Yeah. So that'll be fixed with a track change, and then maybe later I'll add the feature where a track can split up. But that's what I have for now. Yeah. There's the server. We can kill the server. Do I enjoy doing YouTube? Yeah. I wouldn't enjoy doing it full time. I enjoy doing it the way I do it now, which is like maybe one video a month. It doesn't take that much of my time. And then I get a lot out of it. There's lots of feedback and stuff. Also pays decently. And then the cool thing that I mentioned in the short was that I can make a multiplayer game and then have people to play it with. Because one of the things with multiplayer games is you could make a multiplayer game and then no one wants to play it because no one else is playing it. So it's really hard to get those things going. But YouTube makes that much easier to deal with. Like in the last Pixkartz playtest, we had like 20-something people in it. What libraries do I use for the server side in Pygame? Oh, I already answered that. Hi, Subox Dobby. Actually, I don't know how to say your name. I don't know my Eastern European name pronunciations. You repeated my last video 3 times. You talking about the trailer or the other one? The trailer is interesting. Is that Tower fingernail? No. I was joking that it looks like one, but it's not. It's just the terrain. So that's not what the traffic will look like. So normally I'll draw the track. This is what the player sees. This is what the game sees for handling physics. It's like the grass slows you down, the road you go fast on, the ice is slippery, the black is the void that you don't want to fall into. So that's how that works. And then, yeah, so that's that. Oh, I wonder, was it? So there's just the thing I think I was thinking about doing with layers where you could actually layer it visually and you could kind of show both layers on top of each other. That would be kind of cool. But then like it looks like it's below you. But then I'd have to do all sorts of weird rendering stuff with the other cars. It would be a lot of work. I think that's why the portal void is with portals instead of like stairs or ramps or whatever. I thought about making Pixkartz like proper 3D, but like proper 3D physically, not actually in the rendering. But that'd be a lot of work. Maybe for a Pixkartz too. A 3D Pixkartz too would be interesting. And then if it's actually 3D, then I could make a VR version where like, well, it would be cross-platform probably, but like you could play it first person in VR or something like that. That would be very funny. Anyways, yeah, so this is what the game and the server see, and that's what I had drawn for that other map. I haven't done the actual artwork for it yet. Now, the reason for that is that while it's like this, I can play with it and like I said, I have to move some of the stuff between the layers. So I have to go and do that, and then since I haven't already done and gone all the artwork, it's not too much too much work to correct that. If I had already done the artwork, I'd have to go back and change all the floor artwork, and it would take forever. So that's why it's the way it is. Anyways, so I've been streaming for like 2.5 hours here, so I'm gonna go ahead and stream. I think next time with Pixkartz, I'm probably gonna work on Pixkartz on my own before I stream it again. But one of the things I'm gonna have to do is correct that map, and then after that, I actually might have most of what I need. I'll have to add the part where I can add physical objects, like like walls you can run into and stuff like that on the different layers. That has to be added still. So I'll probably do all that next. And then once all that's done, I can start working on the artwork for that track. And then once that's done, I can do a playtest. So that's what I'm thinking for the month of December here, is finishing that track, getting the playtest done. Probably around Christmas I'll do the playtest is what I'm hoping. And then for that playtest, there'll be a bunch of tracks people haven't played before. Well, yeah, 3 new ones, I think, for a total of 8. And then I think my plan was for the game to release, I wanted like 12 tracks, I think that's what I was aiming for. So I'd add 4 more, I think, after that playtest, and then I have a bunch of items I have to add, and a bunch of bug fixing to do, and things to clean up. But yeah, so I'll probably get started on some of the stuff after the playtest too, on my break. Make a lot of progress there, and then hopefully have something next year for Pixkartz. Anyways, thanks for watching. I will see you guys maybe next week. I might stream Yanhuk next weekend, because I haven't beaten the invasion difficulty yet.